Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are wrestling with, well, one of the most profound paradoxes of effective leadership and honestly just effective living.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be successful, if you want to be resilient, you somehow have to figure out how to be two things at once.
Right.
You need to be deeply rooted in your principles, but also endlessly adaptable to change.
Yeah, it really sounds like a recipe for, I don't know, constant internal conflict, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And our sources today, they really highlight that tension. I mean, on one hand, you've got philosophies like Tony Dungy's urging us to build this unshakable core, solid foundation of character that just doesn't waver.
Okay, the rock.
The rock. But then you have these strategic minds like Robert Greene, even Sun Tzu, and they're insisting that the highest form of power is, well, absolute formlessness. They argue fixed rules are basically death in a world that's always changing.
And that is the tension, the ultimate paradox we're diving into today. How do you stand firm? How do you keep that integrity, maintain that deep character, but still stay fluid enough to respond, immediately and powerfully when circumstances are constantly shifting?
It's the key question.
It is. So our mission is to unpack these two really powerful philosophies, find where they meet, that integration point, and hopefully give you the key that unlocks genuine power and resilience. So let's start, fittingly, I guess, by digging deep. Let's talk about the foundation first.
Right. And when we talk about depth, we're moving past just like superficial rules or checklists pretty quickly.
Good.
Tony Dungy, and he's speaking from, decades of experience building effective teams. He argues this unshakable core is really made up of 6 specific characteristics.
Okay, what are they?
Faith, character, integrity, honesty, humility, and stewardship.
Okay, let's pause on those 6 for a second, especially how they work together. When he says depth, what does he actually mean? Is it like we just need to intellectually agree with these ideas? Or is it something else operating here?
It's definitely the mechanism that matters most.
Yeah.
These aren't just rules you try to follow when it's, convenient.
Right.
They need to become so deep, so ingrained in your soul, really, that they function as natural instincts.
Instincts, okay.
Yeah. The idea is when you're hit with a crisis or maybe an unexpected opportunity pops up, you don't have to pull out a manual or sit there debating the ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Your character just dictates the immediate right and hopefully value-adding response.
That sounds like a tremendous internal discipline. But how do you actually cultivate something like stewardship or humility to the point where it becomes an instinct? Stewardship, for instance, often just sounds like a bureaucratic thing.
Yeah, it can sound that way, but here it's highly practical. Stewardship is really the ethical dimension of that foundation. Our source material points to that passage in 1 Timothy 6, verses 17 to 19.
Okay.
And it's a really powerful reminder. It basically says if you are blessed financially, especially when you compare yourself to, the vast majority of people on the planet.
Which is most of us listening, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Then you're expected to be rich in good works, ready to share, and using what you have to build a good foundation. That's the phrase used.
So it's not just about managing money then, it's more about the perspective, that everything you have, your talents, your time, even your bank account, it's all a gift, not something you own forever.
Exactly. It's a gift, and we're stewards of it. And Dungy shared this perfect, almost painful example of that instinctual response in action. He told a story about visiting South Africa.
Yes.
Stepping out of his familiar world and just seeing the realities of corrugated cardboard homes and streams of dirty water running through these shanty towns.
Wow, that moment of shock, right, when your whole worldview just gets shattered. That's when the instinct either kicks in or it completely fails you.
Right, and the point of that story wasn't just, he saw poverty. It's that his response flowed immediately from those deeply held principles of stewardship.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. He didn't need to check a rule book to know he needed help, or that what he possessed was meant somehow to add value right there in that moment. That core belief you use what you have to add value to others, it was foundational. The uncommon key here is that your willingness, the heart behind the giving, that matters more than the precise amount.
And when those 6 characteristics, faith, character, integrity, honesty, humility, stewardship, when they become internal instincts, the result is this kind of self-reliance. But it's rooted in deep perseverance, not arrogance. It's a quiet internal conviction guiding you. It reminds me of that famous line from G.K. Chesterton. He argued the world starves not for lack of wonders, but for want of wonder. That depth seems to start with gratitude, with wonder, appreciating what you've been given, and that perspective becomes the sort of immovable soil where perseverance can actually grow.
Yeah, that is a solid, unshakable core, no doubt. But here's the massive challenge, the paradox we started with.
Okay.
We've just spent time building this fortress of fixed principles, integrity, honesty, faith, rock solid. How does this fixed foundation possibly square with a world that demands constant, radical, sometimes completely unpredictable change?
Right. That's our pivot point.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears to strategy and flexibility. Let's look at the other side of this paradox and really embrace this idea of radical formlessness. And for that, we turn to Robert Greene. In the 48 Laws of Power, he basically argues that adopting a formless posture is the highest form of power. It's pure strategy.
Yeah, and Green frames this using military wisdom, directly quoting Sun Tzu. A military force has no constant formation. Water has no constant shape. Water again. The argument is pretty simple. If you're predictable, you're vulnerable. You're easily defeated. Victory, whether it's in business, conflict, or just life, it comes from endlessly changing and adapting your shape based on your opponent, or just the fluid circumstances around you. You have to see every single event as entirely new.
Okay, but here's where the philosophical contradiction really hits hard, isn't it? Greene actually admits that this law assumes formlessness. It contradicts the very idea of fixed laws, like, the other 47 in his own book.
He does. It's quite something. He cites Napoleon, who apparently said that the laws governing circumstances are, quote, abolished by new circumstances.
Abolish, that's a strong word.
It's a radical statement. It suggests that any kind of rigidity is just death. Strategically, at least, you have to treat every situation as unique, see it purely through your own eyes, and often you have to ignore historical precedent or even the, quote, sage advice of the elder that preaches fixed historical rules.
Okay, but let's follow that logic all the way. If we abolish fixed laws, if we adapt endlessly, what stops us from just becoming an opportunist? A chameleon with no core? What happens to that character, the integrity we just spent all that time building? Doesn't absolute formlessness risk dissolving the very soul of the person?
That is the critical risk.
You're right.
Absolutely. And that question, I think, brings us right to the core synthesis. The answer to the paradox maybe is found in the nature of water itself.
Back to water.
Back to water. It adapts to every container, right? It flows around every obstacle, yet its essential nature never changes. H2O is always H2O. Its molecular structure is precisely what enables its perfect flexibility.
Okay, I see. So the fixed internal structure, the H2O, that's the prerequisite for the external adaptability, the flowing. The integrity isn't the container you're trying to hold on to. The integrity is the fundamental molecular truth of the water itself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So if we map this back to, say, Dungy's 6 characteristics, integrity, honesty, character, those are the molecular structures. They're the H2O. The flow, the ability to adapt your strategy, your response, that's the expression of the water taking the shape of whatever container it finds itself in.
And if the structure is weak,
then the flexibility just becomes dissipation. It just washes away. Cervantes captured this beautifully. He said, truth will rise above falsehood as oil will rise above water. Alignment with that core truth, that H2O, provides the unsinkable core that allows you to be absolutely flexible without drifting morally.
Okay, that synthesis makes sense. And this integrated approach, it also seems to demand immediate action, doesn't it? We can't just sit around waiting until we feel our foundation is perfect before we engage with the world. There's an urgency here.
Absolutely. Seneca gave us that essential warning, didn't he? Postponement, putting things off, is the greatest waste of life. He said it robs us of each day, snatches away the present by always promising some future where we'll be ready.
So you have to act now.
You have to act now. Bring whatever depth you've managed to cultivate right now to this moment. And you have to trust that it will guide your formless adaptation.
Okay, so let's look at some examples. What does this rooted flexibility actually look like in action, maybe in public life? Take leadership and communication. Colin Powell observed that great leaders are almost always great simplifiers. That power to cut through the noise, the complexity, the confusion that seems to come from a tremendous depth of understanding and character, right? The H2O.
Yes, exactly. The depth provides the clarity needed for simplification. But it's the flexibility that allows the leader to adapt the form of their message, their tone, their strategy, endlessly adapting it to the unique audience they're addressing at that moment. The core message might be constant, but the delivery has to be formless.
And it applies just as well to conviction, even under extreme pressure. We talked about Anne Frank. She wrote famously, "People can tell you to keep your mouth shut, but that doesn't stop you from having your own opinion."
Powerful.
Her opinion, Her rooted conviction, that was fixed, unwavering. Even if the expression of that conviction had to be flexible, sometimes cautious, sometimes even silent, because of our terrifying circumstances. The integrity was uncompromised, but the strategy, the formlessness, was entirely adaptive.
But perhaps the perfect sort of active practice of this synthesis comes from Thich Nhat Hanh, his idea. The determination to practice deep listening and loving speech.
That's fascinating. How does that specific determination become the synthesis of depth and flexibility? Explain that a bit more.
Well, and the determination itself, that unwavering commitment to compassion, to being truly present with another person, that's the depth, that's the fixed H2O, and it never changes.
Okay.
But the practice of deep listening or loving speech, that demands absolute formlessness. You can't prescript your loving speech. You can't plan out your deep listening like a checklist.
No, it'd feel fake.
Totally fake. You have to adapt entirely, moment by moment, to the specific person right in front of you. Their history, their mood, the precise situation. Your response has to be uniquely tailored every single time. The fixed principle, the determination, is what enables the completely formless, adaptive application.
That connects perfectly back to adaptive generosity too, doesn't it? The principle of generosity is fixed because we should share what we have, add value.
Right, that's the depth.
But the expression is totally formless. Sometimes, yeah, it means writing a check. Other times it's giving your time, your focus. And sometimes maybe the most generous thing is actually challenging someone with difficult wisdom.
Exactly. The fixed commitment to adding value enables the necessary flexibility of whatever action is chosen in that specific moment. Wisdom requires that adaptation.
So when you integrate this fixed truth, this deep core, with that kind of formless, open observation, you unlock real discovery.
Yeah.
Makes me think of Albert Szent-Yorgi's definition of discovery.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
He said discovery is seeing what everybody has seen.
Okay, that's the formless observation part, being open.
Right. And thinking what nobody has thought.
And that comes directly from the depth. For your unique perspective, your foundational principles.
That combination, that's what keeps us effective. And it speaks directly to how we ultimately live well and maybe even die well. Epicurus claimed that the art of living well and the art of dying well are one.
Meaning?
Well, living well means acting on your principles now. Stop the postponement Seneca warned about. Engage fully with life as it happens.
And that requires both, doesn't it? It demands the depth of knowing who you truly are, what you stand for, combined with the formlessness of engaging with every changing circumstance without prejudice, without that fatal rigidity.
Yeah. And the height we reach in life, it's determined by the depth of our foundation. But maybe that height isn't measured in awards or recognition.
No, probably not. It's measured, I think, in our ability to genuinely add value to the lives around us and to treat each person we encounter as someone truly special, someone unique.
And that act of adding value, whether it's adaptive generosity or depth listening or some strategic change, it can only really happen if you trust your internal depth, your H2O, enough to risk the external flexibility that real action always requires.
That's the leap of faith, in a way. So the call seems clear. We need to pursue both with equal energy. Be like the tree with those deep, stabilizing roots.
Unshakable.
And be like the water with its flowing adaptive form. We have to be unshakable in our core values, integrity, humility, stewardship, those things, while remaining entirely responsive and fluid in how we express them, how we act in the world.
So here's the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to carry forward. How are you practicing formlessness today without compromising your essential core? The real question isn't maybe whether your foundation is perfect right now. It might never feel perfect.
Probably not.
But are you willing to risk the flexibility that meaningful action demands? Trusting that your current depth, whatever it is right now, is actually enough to guide your instincts through the uncertainty of this moment. It means letting go of needing some kind of mechanical step-by-step application.
Right. And instead, trusting that deep foundational instinct, that H2O,